Eyes are the first thing we notice in a portrait. Baby eyes are soft, shiny, and full of depth. In this video, I'll show you how I build up the layers step by step with colored pencils, so they look natural and realistic. If you want to follow along, there's a link below the video where you can download the reference photo. Now let's look at the colors. I'm going to start with the eyes. This is the sepia. First I'm going over this dark. You see here the lashes, all really dark. Pay attention to the shape and the iris. And I'm just going to fill in the whole iris because going around that small highlight is more difficult than just adding that back later on with the acrylic marker. With the sepia 50 so that I don't lose the sketch lines. So first I'm going to go over the eyebrow. Here's shadow. And then here above the crease line. So I'm looking at the shadow areas now around the eye. And then here I also see a shadow. Yeah, even the eyeball white here, a bit over the waterline, all in shadow here. And then here's another shadow. The shadow looks a bit yellow greenish, so a bit like the raw umber color. And then here when you go up, you also see that shadow. Okay, so now I'm going to add the pink here under the eyes with anthraquinoid pink. Really light pressure. Every color I add, I use light pressure. Try to train your hand to use light pressure always. You can go, if you need to darken, you can go over a layer multiple times, but it's best to start light instead of going dark right away, because two things. If your hand is automatically used to coloring with hard pressure, it's harder to erase if you need to, and using hard pressure will make the layers look less natural and realistic when you need to do some blending. So also when drawing with graphite, it's important to use light pressure and go layer by layer. So it's the same with colored pencils, so it's best to really train your hand to always use light pressure. I also see that pink color a bit here, the skin. So I'm just using light pressure, adding a bit up there. And maybe even here. The pink looks really bright now. I'm also going to add a bit pink here to the nose. But we're going to blend and layer over it. So I always remind myself when I start a new portrait drawing, I know that this will take some time, so I'm just going to focus on the layers I'm putting down now. I allow myself to sit down. Do you have half an hour to draw? Do you have an hour? Okay, see what you can do in that half an hour or an hour, and then leave it and continue another time. So don't think about the rest, don't think about the end result, don't think about some challenges you might have along the way. Try not to think about that, even though some thoughts come to your mind. It's natural. Try to put those thoughts away and think about going step by step. And just think about the hour or half an hour. Maybe even if you just have 10 minutes, just think about the minutes you're going to draw now. Just add a few layers and then stop if you need to. Or even if you have more time, I would also stop after an hour, take a break. I'm going to use the orange brown now, the burnt ochre, because the more layers you add and the more layers once you go over this with a lighter color, it can lighten the layer a bit. So now I'm looking at all of the darker shadow areas that look a bit orange-brown. I'm also going to go, because if you look through the eyebrow hairs, you see here shadow, an orange-brown shadow. So at the beginning when you started using colored pencils and you thought, or you felt overwhelming, how will I be able to start using color and look at all of those colors in the face? How will I be able to choose one? But if you look at each section separately and combine all of those layers together, that will really help to look at a small section at a time and then determine which color you're going to use for that section, and not look at the whole entire portrait and pick all of your colors out at once. You don't have to. You can start with the eyes and just focus on the colors you see around the eyes and on the eye. So there isn't much color here in the eye, just around it for the skin. I'm also going to add this color here to the shadow. Focus on each color one by one. So I see this orange-brown shadow all the way down here as well to the cheek. High pressure, consistent, create a smooth first layer. I'm going to use the orange-brown, so I'm going to work on both eyes a bit at the same time. I also see a bit pink here, but I can add that later. So here again you see a shadow in between the eyebrow hairs. Goes down with this color. I'm going to go over the eyelash, lash line, or the crease here. You see a wrinkle. This isn't too dark. I can just use light pressure, go a bit over it. So now with the burnt ochre 50, actually first I want to darken the shadow more with the sepia 50 here before I start to move on to the lighter pencils. Here it's also a bit darker, the shadow. This eye is maybe here a bit. I will need to darken this crease here, but I'm going to use the burnt ochre 50 now and just go a bit over the skin here. I'm going to blend a bit here over the pink, and I'm going to sharpen. I like to have sharp tips so that I can easily push the pigment into the paper. So this is smooth paper again, Bristol Smooth. So the paper doesn't have a lot of texture, but the sharper the pencils, it's easier to create a smoother result. If you use light pressure and then gently push all of the pigment into the paper. Here you see you go down from the lash line, and then you see like it's round here, that shadow. And I'm looking at the skin in between the eyes, and I see that I can just use this color, the burnt ochre 50, and just add the first layer here. And let's see until around here, and then you start to see that highlight. Oh, next I'm going to add the color to the eyeball, because it looks really strange like this. Because if I compare it to the white in the reference photo, if I look at the brightest area, that's the white in the eye, then this isn't that white. Okay, now I want to use the Payne's Gray. I'm going to start with the middle one with a very light layer for the eyeball white. Payne's Gray 30. And if you look at the eyeball, you see that in the middle it's lighter, and then on the edges you see, what's that, going over this, and you see that it's darker, especially up here. Just filling in the whole eyeball with this color, a light layer, the Payne's Gray 60, and then darken here for this shadow, here around the iris, darken this. And then with the French Gray 10, I don't want to use the white. Yeah, I'm going to use the lightest French Gray. See how that turns out. So if I look at my drawing from a distance now, I see that the eyes look much better now by coloring the eyeball. And if I need to lighten it, so at the beginning I hesitate a bit. If it's dark enough or light enough, it always looks darker in the beginning. But then when I finish the rest, I know that it doesn't look that dark anymore. So I'm going to critique it later on. If I need to lighten it, I can always use the white, lighten it a bit. But I think it's the correct value. Now with the sepia, because the rest got a bit lighter, maybe even the black later, I'm going to go over the lash line now, darken it all again, shadow here. And actually with the burnt sienna, I see a bit of the purple color here in the corner here, and maybe also over the crease line with the burnt sienna. And with the sepia, you see I lost the waterline here. I'm going to blend over this because this turned out way too dark. And then I have the lash line here. And with the black now, iris, both of the irises. Make sure to double check, see that you have both of the iris the correct shape, that they look round, before you really start to darken them. So you won't really be able to correct once you darken. I'm not going to draw the lashes yet. And really darken here as well. You see that the eyes look more and more 3D by adding that really dark value with the whites. And making the layer look a bit smoother by blending over it with the white. Here over the pink, here over the skin, light pressure, See that this pink color mixed with the burnt ochre makes the skin tone look a bit more like the reference photo. And if the pink isn't pink enough, I can always add another layer. But first I'm just going to check, see how this looks. So I'm coloring this whole area. Here the skin is lighter. Now it's less orange brown from the burnt ochre. So now it's mixed with the burnt sienna. And if I need to desaturate some more, I can use the raw umber or blend with the buff titanium if I need to lighten it. I'm using really light pressure at the edges so that I can later on blend when I continue. And yeah, I can also go over this. This will also make it look less orange brown. Here it's pink, but maybe even, so when I blend this with the burnt sienna, maybe I can even add like a violet bit just to add more of that color. But first I'm going to just blend the colors more together. And then later on I can, if I need more pink violet color, then I can just add that lightly, because I do want to keep that nice pink color under the eyes. Now it's too saturated here and I don't want to add more sepia, so I think I'm going to use the raw umber now. And not the darkest one, so I'm going to use the middle one. Raw umber 50 and add, or maybe, let's see, yeah, I can darken the shadow. So with the raw umber, first I'm going to go over the shadow, light pressure, and just darken a bit more. So this is a really dark shadow. Let's see how low it goes. Goes all the way here. And then this eyebrow shadow is also dark. This makes a bit more natural shadow color instead of just the sepia, because the sepia can look a bit gray brown and the raw umber color looks a bit more green brown. So mixed together makes a beautiful natural shadow color. So up here, I see I can create that shadow with the raw umber. Light pressure, still using light pressure on every layer. Here I don't see much darker shadow, so I'm going to continue here. Go over this shadow, and then here the shadow goes. It gets lighter and lighter, but then blends here towards the eye. Let's see, maybe lower here a bit, the shadow. The highlight isn't that big. Let's see if this is not too dark. Just add a light layer to add the color and desaturate the, because when skin is in shadow it can desaturate the color a bit with the raw umber. And I can go over the shadow here. I'm still not using a lot of pressure because I'm still not sure if I want to add more color or another layer. And then if it desaturates the color too much, then you can always go over it with the burnt ochre 10 or the burnt sienna 10. So you will check your colors and see if you need more color or less color, desaturate it. Then you will use a neutral color like this. Or if you need to add more color, you will go over it. So that's how you just can go layer by layer and then back and forth a bit. I think I can add some more orange brown here to the eyebrow. So with the burnt ochre, the darkest one, just adding some more color here. So I'm looking at the skin I see under or between the eyebrow hairs. And with the raw umber 10 again, light pressure, because I see that I don't want to desaturate the color too much. Still see a bit of that pink brown. Going over this color, blending it. I'm using a bit more medium pressure here. I want to smoothen it a bit more, and I'm checking if I already have the correct value. But actually I don't want to smoothen the skin area too much now, because I want to move on to the rest of the face now. And I think it's difficult to check the values this way, so I want to finish more of the face before I do that. So I'm not going to complete the whole layer. So I'm still using light pressure. I don't want to smoothen it completely because I still want to be able to add layers if I need to when I move on to the nose and the rest of the cheeks. So the cheek here is really dark, here just on the lower part, but here is a highlight on the nose. The left part of the nose is a bit darker, a bit more in shadow. And then of course with the forehead, and then I want to critique, because now I just have this part and it's a bit difficult to critique my drawing. So I actually want to add the white in the eyes so that I can critique the rest of so that I have the eyes almost complete. I'm just looking at those brightest areas. And then here it goes also on the eyeball and here. So now you can see that it really makes the eye pop, adding that highlight. This is the Payne's Gray 60, the middle Payne's Gray. Add a bit of that blue here. You see that blue on the eyeball white? I want to keep that. And then blend the rest with the white. And I went a bit over this highlight, so I'm adding it back. So I think that blue in the eyeball next to that black, the black of the iris really makes the eye pop. And if I look at this iris, I see that I'm going to use the lightest sepia, see if I can get that. I see a kind of a highlight in the iris. Let's see, yeah, don't have to use the white, the sepia 10 is light enough. You see that I'm adding that light highlight I see in the iris. Don't really see it here, but just adding, see how that looks. Okay, and then with the white, I want to continue that highlight here on the eyeball. Make sure I have it really dark. And now add a bit of those eyelashes. Drawing those lashes here a bit. And here I see some lashes. This is the sepia that I'm using. With the black, darken the lashes some more because they're dark. And with the sepia, darken here in between the lash line and the crease line. Okay, I think next I'm going to move on to the rest of the skin, and then I can always come back to the eyes. This is the black. If you want to follow the rest of the portrait with me, the next video is all about drawing realistic baby skin. I'll show you the exact colors I use and how I layer and blend them for a soft, natural result. And the full real-time version of this portrait drawing is available inside the membership, where you get access to all my portrait lessons and step-by-step courses. If you'd like to join us, there's a link under the video. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next tutorial.